Jeff Gordon is coming out of retirement. Sort of. Also, looks like NASCAR is looking very closely at Darlington as the first race back. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric and welcome to Out of the Groove. Hope you all are staying safe out there. Hope your weeks have been pretty good. We have a lot to talk about in this episode here today. I'm going to spend a large portion of it talking about the news out of North Carolina that says race teams can return to their race shops, and it sounds like NASCAR is pretty close to landing on a date for the return. But before I get to all that, I want to thank everyone who tuned in last night to the first ever race in the Icebox Pickup Throwdown iRacing Truck Series. Real life Kyle Busch Motorsports Truck Series driver Christian Eckes took home the win, held off former KBM driver Harrison Burton. It was a great show. I got to be a part of the incredible broadcast team over at Podium Esports. It was streamed right here on this channel. A lot of you guys tuned in. The support and the views and the comments, everything were absolutely incredible to see. It sounds like a lot of people really enjoyed the race. We've got 4 more of those races planned. The next one will be this coming Thursday. It'll be at the virtual Kansas Speed. We'll have more information on that coming out very shortly. But thank you everyone who tuned in and supported the Pickup Throwdown. It was an awesome event to be a part of. I'm excited for the next few weeks. The first bit of news I teased at the very beginning, but Jeff Gordon, that's right, 4-time NASCAR Cup Series champion, legend, Hall of Famer, he's coming out of retirement, sort of. Jeff Gordon said Wednesday night that he is going to be participating in this weekend's eNASCAR Pro Invitational iRacing Series race at Talladega Superspeedway. Yes, it's virtual. No, it's not a real race car, but as we've seen these last several weeks, the competition is very much real in these iRacing events. But Jeff Gordon will be returning. Now, he didn't say what car number he's going to be. William Byron's on the 24, and he's won the last 2 Pro Invitationals. I don't know if he's going to give up the 24 to Jeff Gordon, even though that is the number Jeff Gordon made famous. A lot of people are throwing around like the number 46, which there's some history there. Also, Jeff Gordon has not said what paint scheme he's running. He's got plenty of classic flame schemes, rainbow schemes, the T-Rex scheme. Someone was throwing that around as a possibility. I don't know if that's real or if that's just speculation, but Jeff Gordon has a lot of interesting paint schemes he could possibly pick from. But there you have it. Jeff Gordon will be racing in the broadcast on FS1 and Fox this Sunday. It's unclear what this means for the broadcast team. He's probably going to be sort of like an in-race reporter, kind of like what Clint Boyer's been doing, so that's going to be pretty cool to see for sure. Maybe this means Larry McReynolds will have more of a place in the booth again. That's going to be fun to see. Either way, pretty awesome that guys like Jeff Gordon, I assume Dale Earnhardt Jr. is racing this weekend. It's kind of going to feel like the golden era of NASCAR again, guys. A lot of good news coming out of the iRacing world lately. Adam Stern from Sports Business Journal tweeted a report from Nielsen Ratings, and according to Nielsen data, roughly 1 million people who did not watch any of the real-life NASCAR races this year have tuned in to at least one Pro Invitational race so far, and overall, he says, the 4 races, the Pro Invitational races, have amassed approximately 5.4 million unique viewers. Again, this is for virtual racing. This is what I've been saying from the very beginning. For the first time in a long time, maybe ever, NASCAR looks like the sport, looks like the organization that is forward-thinking, ahead of the curve. They embraced this esports iRacing thing very quickly and turned it into a great show, something that I look forward to every Sunday, and I'm sure a lot of you fans out there who watch these videos also look forward to every Sunday. It doesn't replace real racing. The ratings still don't come close to what a real NASCAR race pulls in, but this is the point that we've been making for a while now, that because no other sports are on live TV right now, even virtual NASCAR has drawn in some people who usually aren't interested in NASCAR racing. They're just curious to see what it's all about. And this is a point that I'll talk about again here in a few minutes, but if NASCAR is able to get back to real racing here in the somewhat near future, before most other sports are able to, this is also going to be big news for NASCAR, possibly on the TV ratings, on the popularity front, they'll be re-injecting themselves into popular culture if they're the only sport on live TV. Obviously, the surrounding circumstances are not optimal or really bad, but credit where credit is due. NASCAR bought into this iRacing esports thing very quickly and have done an outstanding job promoting the sport with it over the last several weeks. And as these numbers are proving, it's paid dividends. So credit to NASCAR and Fox and iRacing. I'll give them a round of applause like I've been giving them this whole time because they deserve it. They have done about as good a job as you could hope to do during these unprecedented and uncertain times. Anyway, Jeff Gordon is back this Sunday. I'm excited to see what he can do. It's Talladega. I mean, what do you do? How much practice does he really need to get loose for Talladega? Let's be real here. You just keep the nose clean. Let's try to be there at the end. Anyway, I want to talk about some real racing now, or the idea of real racing returning at least, because there has been just a whirlwind in the news cycle the last 24 hours. It's kind of hard to keep track of everything. So yesterday, during a press conference, the governor of North Carolina, the state where pretty much every NASCAR race team is located, said that NASCAR race teams would be allowed to return to their race shops and deemed them, as an essential business. Obviously, assuming they maintain safe social distancing practices while in the shops themselves. But now race teams can go back to the shop and can work on race cars and prepare race cars for potential upcoming races. This is a huge hurdle that NASCAR needed to clear if they wanted to get back on the real racetrack anytime soon. Roy Cooper, governor of North Carolina, said this during that press conference: "I've been in contact with NASCAR officials, track owners, team owners. They have come forward with a plan to try and protect their employees, so we'll be coming forward with an announcement on that pretty soon." It's been clear in recent days, recent weeks, that NASCAR and a lot of the teams have been actively pushing, actively lobbying the state of North Carolina, the city of Charlotte, to help get their crew guys back in the shop, and they're still trying to push for a possible return to racing no later than May 24th for the Coca-Cola 600 right there in Charlotte. But now it sounds like NASCAR might be hoping for something even a little bit sooner. The governors of both Texas and Florida have already said that NASCAR is allowed to return to racing in their states without fans in attendance whenever NASCAR is ready. But a new challenger is approaching. I mentioned this in a video a few days ago, but now Darlington Raceway has emerged as the frontrunner to land the first real NASCAR race back. And yesterday, the South Carolina tourism leader said that Darlington Raceway is planning to hold a NASCAR race in May. Neither Darlington Raceway itself or NASCAR themselves confirmed this, but it does sound now very likely that NASCAR is trying to narrow in on a specific day and time to return to NASCAR, at least Cup Series, maybe Xfinity as well, racing by mid-May. And it sounds like Darlington Raceway, about 2 hours south of Charlotte, will be the first track back, the first race we see. Now this might sound completely random to you guys because Darlington Raceway is not on the schedule until September for the Southern 500, which is in the NASCAR playoffs. Why are they moving that date or giving them a date so early in the year? Well, it was reported earlier in the week that NASCAR really wants the first couple of races back to be within driving distance of Charlotte, North Carolina, so that they can take advantage of one-day shows and they don't have to put their crew guys up in hotels, anything. They can just drive to the track and do all the stuff they need to do, drive home. It's logistically a lot easier. They can pack lighter, travel lighter, so to speak. And so right now it sounds like NASCAR is looking at May 17th as a potential return to real-life NASCAR racing, and it will be at the Darlington Raceway. But the madness only begins there. According to multiple reports I saw from Adam Stern, Sports Business Journal, Jenna Fryer with the Associated Press, NASCAR has released, or at least leaked perhaps, a tentative revised schedule for these first couple weeks, and it's insane. The Cup Series would return May 17th at Darlington, then just 3 days later on Wednesday, they would race at Charlotte for a 400-mile race, May 20th, then May 24th, Sunday, would be the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte once again, and then May 27th, just 3 days after that, they're in Bristol for a race, the spring race at Bristol Motor Speedway. 4 races in 10, 11 days? What? But this is what I'm saying. All of those racetracks, Bristol, Charlotte, and Darlington, are all within about 3.5 hours from Charlotte, North Carolina, so it's all within driving distance. It can all be done in one day. Drive there, practice, race, setup, and then drive home. It can all happen in one day. And I mentioned this a couple of videos ago, but I'll mention it again here. This isn't going to be fair for everyone. Because one important thing I've seen reported by people at Fox, for example, is that just because Darlington is going to race here in May does not mean that they're moving the September race. This just means, if anything, they're likely going to add a Darlington race. This Darlington race, if they run it here in May, is going to be replacing another race somewhere. And since Darlington is an ISC track which is owned by NASCAR, there's a good chance that this race here in May, if it happens and goes through, will be replacing another ISC race at another ISC track. My fear is maybe Homestead Miami Speedway, perhaps. Could this be a replacement for that race? That would suck, but maybe that's what's going to happen here. Same thing goes for that second Charlotte race they're considering, the little random 400-miler. That's not replacing the Roval, or that's not replacing the Coke 600. Those two races are still going to happen. This is just, if anything, a third Charlotte race, and Charlotte is an SMI-owned track. Good chance that maybe that's going to replace Sonoma, which is also an SMI track. The point is, this Darlington race on May 17th and this Charlotte race on May 20th are actually going to be replacing other racetracks' dates, is the way it sounds right now, if this plan comes to fruition. And that's what I mean when I say it's not going to be entirely fair, because if Sonoma, for example, I'm just using that as an example because geographically where it's located and where it is in the schedule, it's kind of an outlier. I worry Sonoma could be the first one to hit the chopping block. I'm just using that as an example. This is what I mean. It's not fair to Sonoma Raceway that they're going to potentially lose their one and only date in 2020. What's most important to NASCAR and to all of the race teams right now is that they just run all 36 Cup Series races and, run all the Xfinity and all the Truck, or as many as possible, because if you run all the races and you get all of them on Fox and NBC, you get paid. That's what it really comes down to. Fox and NBC hold most of the cards in this whole deal. Most of the money that the tracks get, most of the money that the teams get, that NASCAR gets for the purses and everything, comes from the multi-billion-dollar TV contracts that both Fox and NBC signed a few years back. But they don't get that money unless the races are shown on national television. So NASCAR, doesn't matter where, they just need races to be run and they need them to be televised. I mean, they'd love to have fans in the stands. Fans being in attendance is huge for sponsors. It is huge for revenue for those racetracks and the companies that own them. But the most important thing, let's not kid ourselves here, is getting these races run on national television. So it would definitely suck if a couple racetracks lost one of their dates for 2020. I guess we would just hope that companies like Speedway Motorsports and ISC, who are owned by NASCAR, it's going to be up to those companies to distribute funds that they get fairly, or at least to whatever they believe will keep their business in business the best way possible. For example, if Charlotte gets an extra race here, the TV money that comes in for that race, SMI might distribute a lot of that or all of that to Sonoma to help prevent Sonoma if they lose their date. The point is, SMI, ISC are going to do what's best for them business-wise, and obviously what's best for them business-wise is to not let their tracks go out of business. So I think as long as we can run all 36 Cup races and as many Xfinity and Truck races as possible, I think that the tracks will survive. It will not be a good year for the tracks, but they will hopefully survive. But this is what I mean. It's not going to be fair for everyone. We might get 2 Darlington races this year. We might get 3 Charlotte races this year. We might get an extra Bristol race for all we know. I mean, that's the point. It's going to be a weird year, but NASCAR has made clear from the very beginning that their intent is to run every single race on the NASCAR Cup Series circuit, and as many or all of the Xfinity and Truck races as well. And this might be the only way that's possible, is to focus on the racetracks in the immediate Charlotte, North Carolina area, because that's just the hub. That's where all the teams are located. That's what logistically is easiest and most sensible during these times for the race teams to do. Now, obviously, I'm talking like NASCAR is definitely going to return in May. That is not 100%. I think it's pretty clear that NASCAR is hoping to return to racing without fans in attendance in May, but it's not 100%. It's not guaranteed at this point. Things can change very quickly, very fast. And obviously, safety, health and safety of the public health, as well as the health and safety of the crews, the drivers, the officials, everyone working at the tracks is of the utmost importance. That's at the top of everyone's mind here. But the truth of the matter is, many of these NASCAR race teams, I'm focusing on the race teams because I think they're the ones that are bearing the brunt of this more so than anyone else. Many of the race teams, especially in the Xfinity and Truck Series side, especially a lot of the smaller teams there, desperately need to race, need to compete to stay afloat financially. And I think the hope, or the assumption here at least, is that by running these one-day shows close to Charlotte, North Carolina without fans in attendance, NASCAR can scrutinize more over each individual person going into the racetrack. They can screen every crew guy, every official coming into the racetrack, and hopefully prevent any sort of infection or anyone from getting in who's going to be a danger to everyone else's health. I saw Eddie Gossage from Texas Motor Speedway said that they're going to do like temperature checks for everyone who comes into the racetrack. That's far from perfect. That's not going to screen everyone perfectly or anything like that, but it might add an added layer of security perhaps. Like I said the other day, there's not a 100% foolproof system in all of this. I mean, what happens if one crew guy shows up sick or has a temperature, has a fever? Do you send the crew guy home? Do you send the entire team home? Do you cancel the entire weekend? What happens if, I meant to use this analogy the other day, what happens if Kevin Harvick shows up with a fever? Do you send him home? Do you still run the race? What happens to him in the points? Does he not get points for this race? Like, there's a lot of questions, a lot of contingencies that NASCAR is going to have to plan for here. And one little slip up, one just thing that happens here, just one perhaps unavoidable consequence that arises here could blow this entire thing up overnight. NASCAR is in a unique position from other sports in that, it's a contact sport, at least that's what people like to say, because the cars hit each other, but the human-to-human physical contact is quite minimal in NASCAR. I'm not really concerned about the drivers in this case at all. I mean, the drivers are in their own little bubble for most of the weekend, whether it's the motorhome or the race car itself. They're kind of in a bubble for most of the weekend. It's the crew guys and the officials that I think are more at risk, and NASCAR definitely is going to have to factor that in and take that into serious consideration when determining if and when they can come back to real racing, what sort of safety measures need to be implemented. I mentioned this the other day. I do not envy executive NASCAR's position right now. They have some very difficult decisions to make, and decisions that I don't think they've ever really had to consider before. This is not something they've been trained for. They don't have a lot of historical evidence on the NASCAR side of things to go back and look at and say, oh, that worked, that didn't work. They really don't have anything to base these new decisions off of as far as historical NASCAR-related context goes. Obviously, I think most fans would love to see NASCAR back on the real racetrack as soon as possible, but there are a lot of things that have to go right for that to happen. But right now, it does sound like NASCAR is very close to locking in on a mid-May date as a possible return. Darlington, then maybe a couple Charlottes, Bristol. It's going to be pretty crazy. If they're able to run all 4 of those races that have been kind of theorized here safely, I mean, that'd be pretty cool. I mean, that'd be pretty fun. Like I said at the very beginning, I mean, they'd be the only major sport on TV for those couple weeks. Be pretty huge for possibly the popularity of the sport, for sure. Reports say that both Fox and NBC are happy to start broadcasting NASCAR whenever they get the okay to go back racing, with North Carolina allowing the teams to go back to the shop so far as they maintain safe social distancing practices. These are all important steps forward to seeing real race cars on the track once again. I want to see real cars on the track, but I also want to see everyone stay safe. It's a tough thing to juggle. It's what everybody in the entire country and the entire world is trying to juggle right now. Public health and safety risks versus economic financial risks, because it's just the nature of it right now. A lot of people are in a lot of difficult situations right now across the country, and let's be real, NASCAR is among them. A lot of those race teams are in deep trouble financially if this continues for much longer, but obviously health and safety still comes first. So it's a really tough decision, but it sounds like NASCAR is taking the steps necessary to try to get back racing as soon and hopefully as safely as they possibly can. So it'll be interesting to see what steps are taken over the next couple of weeks. But right now, it sounds likely that we could be less than a month away from seeing real cars on the real racetrack once again, which will be pretty neat to see. It will be a very welcome sight to see, something we've all deeply missed for sure. But that's all I've got in this episode. Thank you all for watching. Subscribe if you are new. Talk about NASCAR like this multiple times a week, every week throughout the entire calendar year. We don't take weeks off ever. So thank you all for tuning in. Follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Of course, a big thank you to my Patreon supporters. I can't thank you all enough for your support of me, of the channel, of the show. If you also want to go the extra mile and show some support over here, you can check out that top link down below. I greatly appreciate all of you on Patreon continuing to support the show, especially during these uncertain times. That really does mean a lot to me. Definitely a lot of interesting decisions that need to be made here in the coming weeks, but I'll be right here to talk about them with you guys as soon as they come to fruition. Thank you all for watching this video. Thank you all for watching the pickup throwdown yesterday. I hope you guys are looking forward to the next one next week. I know I am. I think it's only going to get better from here, but I appreciate the support, everyone. Hope you're staying safe out there. Have a great weekend, everybody.